Hello and welcome to another How to Play Starcraft 2 unit guide. In this guide we're going through every single unit in the game up here, and we'll be going through their strengths, their abilities, their weaknesses, and some of the current meta comments of the matchup. Now, we've already been going through the majority of these, we've gone through the Zealot, the Stalker, all of these guys, and today we're going to go after the Phoenix. By the way, if you do like this content, do like and subscribe. I know putting out a bit early, but if not for me, for the Zergling. Okay, that's enough. Alright, so again, a note before we start proper is that we're going to be going over the multiplayer version of the unit, basically the 1v1 version. We won't be going over the co-op or the campaign variants because there are a lot, and we're just going to be talking about the base unit. So let's talk about the Phoenix. This is one of the most graceful units in the entire game. So how did it come about? How did they make the Phoenix, so to speak? Well, the Phoenix, and now it's a bit of time for a bit of history, is actually a new unit to Starcraft 2. It was developed based on, well, okay, so a bit of backstory. Back in the old days, back in 1990, late 1998, in the days of Brood War. Okay, time to switch the seats. Okay, change this accordingly. Yeah, so back in the days of Brood War, there were actually two air units that provided this kind of support. One was the Corsair, which is this one, piloted by this guy, and the other was the Scout, piloted by this guy. And when they made Starcraft 2, they kind of, as far as I know, they wanted to try and combine the roles, and therefore the Phoenix, as you see now flying across the scene, was actually introduced in 2010 with Wings of Liberty. As for the in-game lore, however, actually, something I would like to point out. There's going to be a link to this in the description, but if you watch the original pre-alpha video where they talk about the Phoenix, it had radically different abilities, like the ability to overload itself and shut down air units, and a whole lot of other things that just didn't make it to the game. It becomes a really interesting what if for Starcraft 2 should these have gone through, because if you watch the rest of that video, that's a really interesting what if scenario that could have been. And again, I'll leave a link to that down in the description. Alright, so that's the development lore. Let's talk about the in-game lore. Alright, so this Phoenix is the Starfighter, and it replaced the aforementioned Nerazim Corsair and the Kalai Scout. Something important to know coming back to these guys is that the Scout was made by the main Protoss group, the Kalai. The Corsair is actually from the Dark Templar faction, the Nerazim. Those two merged at the end of Starcraft 1, and basically other air units such as the Void Ray that we will be covering in a future series was created. This unit right here. Okay, but go away, you're not important right now. Yeah, so as for the in-game lore, there's something called the Ion Cannons, and here's the thing. And this actually translates to the in-game mechanics, is that it does bonus damage to light. This is because the Ion Cannons do particularly well until a unit is armored, aka it's not light. And it's got a twin Ion Cannon, which I will demonstrate in a second, and it can disintegrate enemies that, as aforementioned, is not armored, but it's only an air-to-air fighter. It's basically designed as an interceptor. Alright, so let's talk about where you can build one of these things from. You can build it from the Stargate, so let's grab the big probe over here and start the process. Don't come back. Alright, so first thing you have to do is you have to get your pylon. That's first. Then you have to get your gateway. Then you have to get your Cybernetics core. Then you get your Stargate, and then you can build your Phoenixes at will. Now, the thing about the game right now is that it's built on, in this mod I'm playing, you can basically build it automatically. Normally you need, let's say, a force to get a cannon, not here. Okay, but anyway, the hotkeys that you need to get this are BE for pylon, BG for gateway, BY for cybernetics core, and then V, advanced structures, and then Stargate. So that's where you get it from. Now, let's talk about where you get your upgrades for these things. You can get it from 3 places: the cybernetics core, the forge, and lastly, the fleet beacon. The cyber core is already here. This is where you get air upgrades for your phoenixes. They just buff these. Let me demonstrate. Researching done.
Complete.
You can also get it from the forge, because the forge is where you get the shield upgrades, which will upgrade the shields. It will also upgrade the shields for every building you have. The other place that you can get an upgrade from is the fleet beacon. Now this is VF, and you can only get this after the Stargate. This is normally the building you want to do if you want to get 10% carriers, but there is an upgrade called the Ion Pulse Crystals. I will show you what they do in the next section where we talk about the abilities. So let's go back. Let's reset the upgrades so that we have fair comparisons later. Alright. Now, one more important point, which is that the Phoenix has an additional ability. In fact, let's talk about its abilities. Now, the Phoenixes it technically has 2 abilities, but it's got one more built into its mechanics, which is, let me show you an example. It's one of the only 3 units in the game that can shoot and move at the same time. What I mean by this. Now let's take this Terran Viking, which we'll get to in a future episode. If you just tell it to move, it'll just fly. If you tell it to attack, then it'll attack. Pretty simple, right? It needs to stop in order to shoot. The Phoenix, on the other hand, let's get the Overlord back to full health, does not need to do that. See, I'm not moving, the Phoenix will still fire, it'll still lock onto its target. Now this, as mentioned, is one of the only 3 units in the game, the other 2 being the Terran Battle Cruiser and technically the Terran Cyclone that could do this. So interesting things, alright. So let's talk about the actual abilities. So I actually have something prepared for this. Alright, so the first ability that it gets on by default is gravitational beam. So the definition is that it makes the target ability float in the air, disabling its abilities last for 7 seconds. So this ability is called Phoenix Lift, and it can be used on all units except massive units. Basically every unit has a tag. For example, the Stalker that we've covered in the previous episode is armored mechanical, the Phoenix is light mechanical, the Immortal is armored mechanical, but these 3 big boys over here, the Ultra, the Archon, and the Thor, there's also a couple more, are all massive. They cannot be lift. Okay. So the important thing about lift is that it disables the unit, but it also disables the Phoenix. The Phoenix cannot move and cannot shoot at the same time. Rather than me babbling on, but it does stun its target. So let's demonstrate. Let's say you have this Immortal that we would wreck this Stalker. Yep, it's wrecking the Stalker. Let me restart because Stalker has no HP. Oh no, not the Ultra, the Immortal. Lift! So here's the thing. The Immortal is currently floating in the air, you know, wiggling its legs, and it can't attack. Notice that this Phoenix that's lifting it is not attacking as well. The Stalker, which can shoot up, is actually attacking it, and so is its allied Phoenix. Now, that's one. The other thing to note is that this ability requires energy. So there's only a certain number of times you can lift something before it just runs out of energy and the Phoenix becomes a flying paperweight. You can still throw the paperweight, but it can't actually attack. Now, on the point of massive units, let's take this big Ultralisk here, right? I can't click it. The Stalker is gonna die. What you can do is you can lift your own unit, the Stalker up, but if you don't have anything to kill the Ultra, the Stalker will eventually run out of energy and this will happen. Zerg represents. Alright. So that's the first ability. The other thing important to know that if you have static defenses like cannons or spore crawlers in 2v2, they will also attack units that are lifted. Alright, that was the first ability. Let's clear the board. The second ability is something called Ion Pulse Crystals. This is the aforementioned ability you get at the fleet beacon. I'm just going to turn it on directly from here. Here we go. It does cost money, by the way, 150 minerals, 150 gas. So what this is that it increases the range by 2. So you can see the range here is 7. The range here is 5. So if I tell it to attack, this red phoenix is going to be able to fire first. More importantly, if you have this upgrade, you can dogfight any air unit in the entire game. Phoenixes, mutas. In fact, let's just do that again. But the thing about this upgrade, and we'll talk about this later. Hold on. Gravitational beam and ion pulse crystals is that. Oh, by the way, this is actually a big deal in 1v1 Phoenix fights because even if without Michael, this Phoenix will fire first and eventually get more shots in all the time. See? So, but here's the thing: there's not that much to write home about. Yeah, it's cool. It makes you feel like, you know, the Red Baron in this case, but it has a downside, which is that if your enemy is going for any kind of ground army, like this Phoenix can't do anything to it. And it's only gotten if your enemy is going air or you're in the late game. You don't see it that often, to be perfectly honest. Alright, let's turn off Ion Pulse Crystals. Alright, so let's talk about their strengths and their weaknesses. Alright, so the first strength that we can talk about is its stun ability, that aforementioned lift. I actually have something prepared for this. Okay, here we go. So, what you see here is a Porous army of a bunch of Stalkers, a bunch of Zealots, and a couple of Phoenixes. Here you have a Terran Strike Force, Marines, Marauders, Tanks, Medevacs. Roughly about the same cost. Alright, so as mentioned, when the Phoenix lifts something, that unit cannot attack, and this can be used to take out key units as you saw earlier. We have an example with the Mortal, but let's do a Terran example for a change. Let's start. Let's siege up the tanks and just fight. You might think that, oh, Phoenixes are okay, they've got air units, they'll have value. Let's attack and see what happens. Yeah, the Protoss is gonna get wrecked. But, let's say that we actually micro and we take out the tanks before the fight starts. See, these tanks are not doing anything. These Stalkers are surviving. Wait, drop them, pick them up again. And yeah, this could give you that little edge you need in battle to win those with key engagements. Alright. So after the tanks are dead, then the medevacs are. It's quite self-explanatory. Alright. So let me give you a even better scenario. Let's load. Alright. So let's take this fight, right? Let's say if you don't have the Phoenixes and you just fight, these guys are going to be wrecked because, as mentioned before, the Immortal just wrecks Stalkers. But with aforementioned Phoenixes, if you pick up the Immortal before the fight starts and take out one of those Stalkers, okay, wait, I need a Michael. The Immortal's gonna be put down. I need to pick it up immediately. We've won. Red team has won, I think. Okay, maybe not. Ooh, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be really close. Yo, Phoenix attack lah. Ooh, okay, red team wins. Alright, so that's the lift ability. Now, one more thing specific for PvP that I want to mention right now is that this is the scenario where the enemy has the Disruptor. Now, we've already covered the Disruptor in a previous episode. Here's a recap of what it can do. But here's a key point. If the Disruptor fires and the Phoenixes, oops. Okay, I don't know if you caught that. In fact, let me just show you at the side. what the Phoenix can do is that it can actually cancel the disruptor shot. So watch, it fires, the Phoenix does the lift, this thing will disappear. This is absolutely critical for PvP, and this is one of the things for that stun ability. So that's one of the strengths of this. Alright, so let's talk about its second strength, which is scouting and anti-drop. Oops. Okay, this will mess up a little bit. Let's switch the terrain to a large, nice open field. Now the thing about having a group of Phoenixes out is that if the enemy is going for drops, let's say medevacs, let's say warp prisms, or if you're playing against Zerg who has overlords, and in fact, let's switch off the sights. So here's the thing, having these starfighters allows you to easily see most large parts of the map. So let's say you have a patrol, you're taking the north. Oh, a drop incoming! Dead. Okay, you continue your scout patrol path. You catch an overlord, you just kill it. Basically, it allows you to check corners of the map more easily. Oh, another drop. Well, let's stop that. And if you're playing against Zerg, honestly, it's just a lot of fun to bonus point to just like fly around and pop these overlords and supply block the Zerg. It's very satisfying. Yep. And again, it just allows you to like cover that much more ground because you're up in the air. Alright, so let's try to get that last scenario. And it's the last strength I'm going to talk about, which is worker harassment. Okay, let's do this. Alright, so this time we're going to be controlling the blue Phoenixes. Now the Terran here has a pretty entrenched base. Let's put some tags, some widow mines. Get back up the ramp. Now, normally, if you had a normal ground army, stalkers, what have you, it would be impossible to break this position, especially with these widow mines. But what you can do as these Phoenixes is that you can gather them up, fly them into enemy middle lines, and delete. And here's the thing, they are tanky enough that, oh, you can take some minor damage and then still fly out. Notice that we took almost no real damage, like a bunch minor armor damage, but if you're fast enough, you can just get out of there.
Looking forward to it.
Of course, as a caveat in this situation, if you fly them over widow mines specifically, which we will cover in a future episode, you're gonna have a bad time, but that's not really one of the big weaknesses. They're still quite tanky. Alright, so with all these, you might be asking yourself, aren't Phoenixes a little bit, overpowered a bit? But no. No, they're not. They have jarring weaknesses. Let's talk about those. Alright, so the first weakness up front is that it has a very high... It has a very high micro. It's a very micro unit. You basically have to grab them and continuously, play with them to make them effective. You can't just send them into battle. And to demonstrate...
You seek guidance?
Okay, so the thing about the Phoenixes, as mentioned, never mind this example, is that you have to continuously fly them around. If you just move them into an army, they will die. And the big problem that you can't really demonstrate here is that you need to continuously move them and do things like manage your base. You need to continuously build workers. You need to tech up. If not, I've played the game personally a few times where I've got like a very nice Phoenix flock, but I've got no probes. I've got nothing after that, and then I just fall apart because I'm not doing what I need to do. Very good for the Zergling, but not good for me. So that's the thing, it does require attention, and if you're not paying attention, as you saw in the previous example, you fly them over a bunch of widow mines, you lose a lot of Phoenixes very, very quickly. Now the next big weakness it has is that it's low direct fighting ability. Alright, what do I mean by this? Well, let's say you have a nice flock of Phoenixes and you have a pylon that you need to defend against. Yeah, 25 Zerglings, you know? This costs a lot less than this, even minusing the pylon. Zerglings. Alright, let's see how well the Phoenixes do. So let's attack. Okay, the Phoenixes can live, so let's grab. See, here's the thing. You can't kill these lings fast enough to stop them from getting the pylon. Like, they're just not gonna cut it. You can try that again. Try and lift them faster. This is what I mean by the micro, by the way. Yep. And you can kill these lings eventually, but you've lost the pylon. Objective failed. Let me give you a better example. Let's say you have an army of 5 Phoenixes as well as a bunch of roaches. And let's just attack, and the Phoenixes are gonna fight. They're all lifting up, they've stunned all the roaches, they are continuously trying to lift. And the Protoss army is just getting annihilated by the overwhelming might of the Zerg. In fact, let's try this again. And try with just lifting one unit so that the Phoenixes can fire. Now the real problem behind this is that even if you use the Phoenixes to kill 10, 20 workers and you don't have a ground army, this can happen. The enemy just grabs whatever they have because they've been macroing up and march across the map and kill you. And this is actually a good segue into the last weakness, which is that it would have been better to have Immortals in this fight. Okay, let's take a look at this. It's about 1875750. The roaches are the same. If we remove these Phoenixes and add in 3 Immortals, the price is not too different. The price is not too different, and it gives you a lot more value. So let's try fighting this time and see how it goes. Okay, the Immortals are all firing. This is good. The Zealots are derping out, however, that's not good. The Immortals again are pretty direct. You don't have to micro them, you don't have to do anything. And with that, the Protoss is decisively defeating the Zerg. We can run this again, but again, the real problem here is that if you're investing in that many Phoenixes, especially because you need to get Stargate tech, you're not getting Robo, you're not getting Twilight, you're missing out on a lot of options, and you need to make sure these Phoenixes get value to get return on investment. Again, one more time for demonstration, not this, like again, let's say I remove these 5 Immortals and I add on the 5 Phoenixes. The cost is roughly the same and the Immortals do a lot better in this specific scenario. Alright, so those are the 3 weaknesses of the Phoenix as well as 3 of their strengths. Before we wrap this video up, let's talk about some matchup specific comments and how they're used in the current meta. Alright, this is quite a long section, which is that alright, so for PvE, basically Protoss versus anything, they are good for the aforementioned mineral line harass. Oh wait, let's clear this. They're good for the mineral line harass. Basically any base, and this is Protoss or Zerg, you can just fly your Phoenixes in and kill them. That's always good. If you're playing it's also good for the anti-drop as mentioned. Okay, let's talk about PvT, Protoss versus Terran specifically. As you saw earlier, it's considered a bit of an unusual opening because most people are going, as of right now, as far as I know, most people are going Stalkers, Blink Stalkers. I personally prefer to go for Observers, but again, Phoenixes are good. You can stop Medevacs, you can stop Widowmine drops, you can stop the Terran Liberator harassers. Oh no, that's a battlecruiser. That's a separate problem. It helps you with these things, and It's just a good all out, but you do need to remember to get your splash damage. You need your High Templars, your Colossi, your Disruptors to really take on Terran Bio. For PvP, as mentioned earlier, you can use them. Oops, wrong one. In PvP, as mentioned earlier, you can use them to pick up Immortals. You can use them to pick off Warp Prisms to stop enemy reinforcements. But you need to micro them, and you need to be careful. If not, you can get them to counter things like Oracles and even Void Rays. But this depends. It then turns into an air battle and things do get messy. But again, Phoenix, if you're already going for Stargate, Phoenix after Oracle is a fairly standard choice, but you can skip the Phoenixes altogether. Now in PvZ on the other hand, if you're going Stargate and you're already committed to the Oracle, which we've talked about at length in the previous video, Oracles have no weaknesses. You always want to get either a Phoenix or a Void Ray after you get the Oracle, because Zerg will always have overlords that you could, you know, go and pop.
I am eager to strike.
Now, whether you choose to go into mass Phoenixes behind this is up to you. The other use for getting Phoenixes, or at least getting the Stargate, is that if the enemy goes for these really annoying things called mutas, enemy Zerg air units, Phoenixes are a good choice. Even against enemy Corruptors, they can be good with the upgrades, but again, this comes down to upgrades and this depends on other factors that are going on. Other uses is that you can use them if you have detection to lift up lurkers, take them out of the ground, take them out of the fight. But against Zerg, it's also problematic because if they just go for... Let me clear out this guy so it's a bit more obvious what's down here. If they just go for mass links, your air units are not going to help you, or roaches or hydras which shoot air. So it does come with trade-offs. It depends on the match specific and what you're comfortable with. Of course, it's possible to make Phoenixes work in all matchups, but it depends whether you can make it work in all matchups. Alright, so that's that. In conclusion, alright, so in conclusion, the Phoenix is a fun unit that requires a degree of skill to play effectively, and honestly a lot of macro to go behind that. This support Starfighter can be a tipping point in battles, as we saw earlier here, but only if you have units to back it up. Again, if there were no stalkers on the ground, if this was pure Phoenix, in fact, let me demonstrate. If this was pure Phoenix, you'd be in a quite a bit of trouble.
We are
because eventually the Phoenixes will run out of energy. The other thing is that they are incredibly fun, you know, going in, just controlling all of these guys, flying around, feeling like you're the squad leader of a squadron, the leader of the flock of Phoenixes. Yeah, but again, you do need to micro them, because if you don't have energy, they're just gonna get shot down. They will regen energy over time, efficient, but if, again, like, these guys could just go and smash the base.
I am eager to strike.
Yep.
Understood.
Alright, so again, depends on how much you want to use them. Alright, so that concludes the video on the Phoenix. I hope you liked it. The next time we will be talking about the... I was going to say humble, but I can't do it. We're going to be talking about one of the most controversial units in Starcraft 2, the Void Ray. But that's going to be for next time. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe. I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday, mostly on Starcraft 2. If you have any feedback, do comment them down below. And if not for me, what is that thing? Nam 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 nam. We'll see you next time. Nam. Alright, I think that's enough Starcraft 2 for one day. Thank you whoever tuned in to watch me do all this. I think I'll raid Neuro. I like Mr. Neuro. Let's give him a raid. He's only got 50 viewers playing Dungeons and Dragons. Again, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back next Wednesday, probably next Friday, maybe next Friday evening. And whenever else I'm on, I'll be announcing it on my Twitter. Exclamation on Twitter. Oh, thank you, Gaming GTG. I'm about to go too. Thanks for giving your view to me throughout this and watching me with Stefan. You're a great guy. Hope to see you stream more as well. If you're online, I'll definitely be watching your stream. Bye, guys. Exactly. Nem 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 nem.